Joined on the KTSA Quarter Moon Plumbing AC Heating Newsmaker line right now by Willie Ng, who's former SAPD and Secret Service and worked with the Bexar County DA's office and has his own private security company, Blue Armor Security, and is a Republican candidate for state representative in the primary next spring as well. With all of that said, Willie Ng, welcome back. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Jack.
We got a lot to talk about here. Usually with you and me, it's one heavy duty kind of heavy story. We got three here, but let me start with, what are your thoughts about the announcement in Rhode Island that they almost immediately had the shooting suspect and now they're saying, we let him go, lack of evidence or not the right person? What is that saying to you?
Well, I think that they're probably jumped gun on some of the information they received. And again, that happens a lot with law enforcement. Unfortunately, they kind of put those blinders and get tunnel vision and they key in on one thing or someone mentions something and they kind of zone in on that versus keeping their eyes open and taking those blinders off. And that sounds like this is what happened here because immediately they had somebody, and they were in custody. And the next thing you know, nope, wrong person. We're letting them go.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of the way they got the initial arrest or detention of a suspect in the Charlie Kirk shooting wrong. And in this current climate, as you can imagine, Willie, it also that sort of correction or whatever, that's the soil for more and more conspiracy theories to grow.
Well, yeah, you start to lose the trust of the community, right? You're not very effective in your investigation skills because you're telling us we're safe now. You've got the suspect in custody. Nope, sorry, wrong person. He's still on the loose. Again, we in terms of law enforcement and investigators, we've got to be very meticulous and take our time and make sure we get it right. People are watching and they're depending on us to get it right.
Does it seem odd to you that on a college campus that must have hundreds and hundreds of cameras, there is such poor and limited surveillance video that's being shown to the public?
Jack, I thought the exact same thing. And if you notice, they most of the time they're showing that one clip of the backside of backside of an individual walking on a public street. Okay, what about all the cameras and surveillance cameras you have within the campus? I mean, I don't understand why they don't have more videos to show the suspects on the loose. Obviously, they need the public's help. Show some more footage and see if somebody can identify that suspect.
I mean, I don't know. I know you don't want to speculate, and you're a very responsible person in that way, but all of this is suggesting to me that they know something they are reluctant or they are putting off telling us.
That could be it, and it'd be very disappointing if that's the case, because you're talking about a community at risk, and public safety at risk, to protect if it is a political type situation where they know the person, that they're related to someone within the campus. I really hope that we're wrong, but it's really sloppy and it doesn't help with the trust of the community to law enforcement.
What is somebody that does active shooter training and consults with, I know you've consulted with schools here in San Antonio, what are obvious things that big universities like Brown don't do but could do to be safer?
Well, now we do these security surveys and we walk campuses and a lot of schools are actually doing this and following this advice. We're telling them to lock the doors at all times to get into the campus, to get into the building, to get into each classroom. We don't want it to be an easy target. Sandy Hook shooting occurred years and years ago. And I remember the very first classroom, the way she saved all those children, simply, she locked the door. And I remember they interviewed her. She's like, I thought we're the first class that was going to get it. We're the first classroom. And you can hear the gunshot. Well, he jiggled the handle. He couldn't get in. So he goes to the easier target. He already knows, and these suspects know. On average, it takes law enforcement 3 minutes to get to a critical incident, a crime scene like this with active shooter. 3 minutes. That's all they have. That's a long time still, though, and you can lose a lot of life. But why aren't they securing their doors? We're telling campuses from elementary to high school, lock all your doors, every single door, secure it.
Talking with Willie Ng, whose company is Blue Armor Security and has a long resume of law enforcement work at different levels. He's with us on KTSA right now. So getting back to the shadowy suspect, we had him, we didn't have him. Here's what he looks like from behind. Take us inside what would be going on right now. Are they holding back something on purpose? Are they, do you feel like they're now being much more careful because they already had to make a correction once? I mean, what do you suspect from your experience in cases like this is going on inside that investigation?
I certainly hope they were not withholding evidence. Look, usually you withhold evidence if there was like something really specific to the crime that you don't want it to get out because you're going to use that later on to positively identify the suspect being involved, right? Whether it's a certain caliber of firearm, a very unique caliber or a very unique firearm used. Some of those things you don't want to mention too much about, but the footage is something that should be out there. You know, they should be showing that footage. There's got to be footage, the cameras inside that campus. They should be sharing that because right now they already made the mistake of kind of knee jerk, say we have the guy, no, we don't have the guy. They need to just have self-awareness, understand that they need the public's help and release that information. There's going to be some information they don't want to release out to the community, but that is very important to release as a photo or some kind of a better photo of a backside of an individual wearing all black.
Let me tap on a couple of other things real quick while we have you. The murder of Rob Reiner and his wife, Michele, and they're holding his adult son as a suspect in that case. When you hear that people are stabbed to death and have their throat cut, I think I've read in the past that's sort of telling right there about the nature of the attacker or the relationship maybe between the attacker and the victim.
Yes, it's always over the top, Jack, and a very good example is the Menendez brothers. If you remember that case, I mean, they brutally murdered their family, and they shot their kneecaps. They blew the face off. I mean, it was just horrible. Those overkill like this here, where they're slashing the neck, multiple stabbing. There's a lot of anger and passion with those things. So it's always when you see those types of wounds and those types of crime scenes, automatically you know there was some type of relationship between the suspect and the victims.
And in the case of the mass shooting in Australia, I don't know if you've been following that. It was a Hanukkah event. It was outdoors. It was a large crowd. I don't know a lot about the event, except I know it's something that happens every year. And so on the one hand, if it happens every year, you would think there would be some established security protocols because it wasn't like a first time we've ever done it thing. But you also, I guess, probably see in your work that when things happen every year, maybe some complacency or relaxing of security. Does that enter into your thinking?
You nailed it. And I've been saying that from day one. Well, actually, since the incident occurred, I've been saying complacency. I think that it was very complacent. And I think, to be honest with you, a part of that is, and if people don't know this, Australia has some of the toughest gun laws in the world. And I think they became complacent because of that. Also, Jack, and again, talk about complacency and not being appropriately trained and not taking the appropriate action. There were a lot of anti-Semitic threats made prior to this event. And if you look at the video, I've looked at it multiple times, different video, different angles. I did not see one law enforcement officer with a long rifle. Now, maybe they were there. I didn't see any. Even those that approached the suspects, I didn't see any long rifles. Look, you have anti-Semitic threats going on in statements to this particular event, and you didn't have enough law enforcement and you didn't have long rifles and you didn't prepare yourself, that means you're becoming complacent. You're relying on the law that the fact that the fact that you have the toughest gun laws in the world, that you're going to be safe. And that doesn't happen. Look, we know there's a law against murder, and it still happens. So you think that you just because you have the strictest gun laws in the world, that's going to prevent this from happening?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point.
And I don't know if you saw this, Jack, but the Prime Minister already is talking about stricter gun laws.
Yes. Yeah.
Look,
as if a person setting out to do this would turn around and go back in the house because he had just learned of a new law.
Exactly. I'm going to paraphrase this, but Reagan said it best. Society, the people tend to think society is guilty of these types of crimes instead of the lawbreaker. That is this asinine, and we need to start looking at suspects and being proactive and training our law enforcement and giving them the tools that they need and supporting them when they have to use that force that's necessary to stop this crime.
Well, and when you are in a society that is under attack, the very tenets of civilization are being attacked, violence is being urged and whipped up against groups within that society, you have to be in a posture of expecting the worst, not thinking we'll just tweak the gun laws and we'll be fine. I mean, that would be like thinking that gun laws would prevent you from being invaded by another country, like they would stop at your border because you'd made some gun laws. I mean, I think it's that elemental. This isn't an isolated crime in Australia. This is part of a fabric of events that are increasingly and virulently anti-Semitic, and you ignore that at your own peril. The company's Blue Armor Security, Willie Ng. It's always good to have you, Willie. Thank you for coming on with us today. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, Jack.
We got more of the Jack Show. You can join 210-599-5555 on KTSA.